Come to my channel, Lauren Rose. There's a quiet tension many men feel but can't name. The sense that something important is missing even when you're doing everything right. Today, I want to gently unsettle that comfort. Because near the end of this video, one realization often changes how men see themselves forever. If this kind of honest psychology helps you grow, you might consider liking the video and subscribing. It supports conversations most people avoid. Let me begin by softening the word you saw in the title. When I say dirty, I don't mean crude or explicit. I mean emotionally daring. I mean behaviors that feel risky because they require presence, self respect, and the courage to be fully seen. Most women don't say they want these things out loud, not because they're manipulative or secretive, but because many men were never taught how to hear them. The first thing many women quietly long for is a man who can slow down without losing strength. Not passive, not hesitant, but grounded. A man who doesn't rush to fill silence with noise, explanations, or performance. When you can pause, breathe, and stay emotionally steady, it communicates safety. It says, I'm not afraid of this moment or of you. That calm steadiness often feels more intimate than words. The second is emotional leadership, not control. This is often misunderstood. Emotional leadership means you can name what's happening without blaming. You can say, something feels off tonight. Instead of withdrawing or pretending everything is fine, many women are quietly exhausted from carrying emotional awareness alone. When a man can gently acknowledge emotional shifts, it feels like relief, not dominance. The third is restraint. This may surprise you. Restraint is deeply attractive because it signals self respect. When you don't chase validation, over-explain, or push for reassurance, you show that your worth isn't up for negotiation. Many women never say this because it sounds counterintuitive, but emotional self-control often feels more compelling than intensity. The fourth is being deeply present without trying to fix. When a woman shares something vulnerable, many men instinctively move into problem-solving mode. While well-intentioned, it can feel like distance. Presence means listening without preparing your response, without correcting the emotion, without turning it into a task. Just staying. That quiet attention can feel profoundly intimate. The fifth is consistency, especially when it's inconvenient. Anyone can be attentive when it's easy. What's rarely spoken about is how much trust is built when your tone, values, and boundaries remain steady under stress. Consistency communicates maturity. It tells her that your character isn't situational. These aren't tricks. They're inner disciplines. And here's what matters most. Women don't secretly want these things because they benefit them alone. They want them because these qualities create a relationship where both people can exhale, where connection doesn't feel like a performance. As we continue, we'll go deeper into why these desires stay unspoken and what happens inside a woman's psychology when a man quietly embodies them. What I want you to understand now is why so many of these desires remain unspoken. It isn't because women are testing you or withholding information. It's because many of these longings exist below language. They're felt in the nervous system long before they become thoughts. And when a man understands this, he stops trying to be impressive and starts becoming impactful. Another quietly powerful desire is for a man who respects his own boundaries, even when attraction is strong. This isn't about rejection or emotional distance. It's about self-honoring. When you don't abandon your values to keep someone interested, something subtle happens. A woman feels that being chosen by you actually means something. Desire grows when choice is real, not desperate. Closely connected to this is the wish for a man who can tolerate discomfort without shutting down. Many women sense when a man becomes emotionally overwhelmed but doesn't know how to process it. So he withdraws, distracts himself, or becomes reactive. What's rarely said is how stabilizing it feels when a man can stay emotionally available even when he's unsure. You don't need perfect words. You need emotional endurance. Another unspoken longing is to be seen without being analyzed. Psychological language has become common, but being labeled or interpreted can feel invasive. What many women want instead is simple recognition. I see that this matters to you, not an explanation, not a diagnosis, just acknowledgement. When a man can witness without dissecting, it creates emotional closeness that feels safe rather than exposed. There is also a deep desire for a man who initiates repair after tension. Not defensively, not dramatically, but calmly. Many conflicts don't need to be won or solved. They need to be softened when you can return after distance and say, I don't like the space between us. You demonstrate emotional maturity. This is rarely asked for directly, yet it's one of the strongest builders of trust. Another thing women often want but don't say is for a man to allow admiration to flow both ways. Compliments aren't the same as admiration. Admiration includes respect for her competence, her values, her way of moving through the world. When you admire without pedestalizing, it feels grounding. It says, I see you as capable, not fragile. And finally, there is the desire for emotional honesty without emotional dumping. This balance matters. Sharing your inner world builds closeness, but doing so with self awareness shows strength. When you can speak about your fears, doubts, or hopes without making them someone else's burden, it creates connection rather than pressure. None of these are performances, they're expressions of inner alignment. When a man develops these qualities, something changes quietly but powerfully. Women don't feel the need to ask for more. They feel safe enough to respond naturally. This is where real attraction grows, not from trying harder, but from becoming steadier. Now, I want to bring all of this together in a way most men have never been guided through. Because the final unspoken desire isn't a single behavior, it's a state of being. And when a man embodies it, everything else you've heard begins to make sense. Many women quietly long for a man who is at peace with his own depth, not constantly improving himself to be worthy, not hiding behind productivity, humor, or detachment, but someone who has made room for his inner life without becoming consumed by it. This creates a rare emotional gravity. It tells her she doesn't need to manage you, fix you, or guess where she stands. What's rarely said out loud is that emotional confidence feels more intimate than physical confidence. When you're not afraid of your own silence, your own reflection, or your own limits, it signals something powerful. It says you are internally anchored, and that anchor allows connection to feel expansive rather than tense. Another quiet desire is for a man who doesn't confuse intensity with intimacy. Big gestures, constant contact, or emotional highs can feel exciting at first, but they often create instability. What many women want is emotional reliability, the sense that closeness doesn't require drama. When connection feels calm and alive at the same time, it builds a trust that doesn't fade quickly. There is also a deep longing for mutual emotional sovereignty. This means you don't need her emotions to regulate yours, and she doesn't need you to manage hers. You can care without absorbing. You can support without self-erasure. This balance is rarely discussed, yet it's what allows attraction and respect to coexist long-term. Perhaps the most misunderstood. Desire is for a man who doesn't chase understanding, but embodies it. You don't need to constantly ask, what do you want? When your behavior already communicates presence, respect, and steadiness. When your actions align with your values, they speak louder than reassurance ever could. And here's the truth many men only realize later in life. These qualities don't make you appealing only to women. They change how you experience yourself. You move through the world with less urgency, less self-doubt, and less need for approval. Relationships stop feeling like auditions and start feeling like shared ground. Women rarely say they want these things because they aren't requests. They're responses. Responses to a man who has done the inner work of becoming emotionally whole rather than emotionally impressive. If there's one thing I hope stays with you after this video, it's this. Attraction isn't something you perform. It's something that emerges when you are internally settled. And when you reach that place, the right connections don't need to be chased. They recognize you. That's where everything quietly changes.